Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on Python for ethical hackers. In this video we'll look at variable string and their concatenation. So in the previous video, if you remember, we did wrote down this simple program which just imports the sub-process library and then execute these 4 commands on terminal. So this was a pretty basic program with having a pretty basic functionality, but it's not that much useful for us because what this program does is it just works with the with this ETH0 interface, and it just changed this MAC address. We are unable, like every time we run this program, it will only change the MAC address of ETH0 to this MAC address that we have provided, 0:11:22:33:44:77. So the main problem is that if I'm willing to change the MAC address of another interface, I have to come over to the code and I have to manually change that interface and then MAC address. So doing this every time is a difficult job. So that's why we are willing to introduce variables, because here you can see that the interface name would change every time. So we can take this interface as a variable, as well as the MAC address to be changed would be a different number every time. So that's why it's a variable. We can take this as a variable as well. But let's first understand what is variable. Well, variable is a really useful thing, and we often, like, without a variable we cannot write a program. You can argue this statement: we can write a program that just prints out hello world, so that would be a program without a variable. But in most cases we cannot write a program without a variable, because variable is the key point of every program. So what is this variable? A variable is a location that contains a certain value. You can consider it as a box in memory which is used to store a value or something like that. So you can consider it as a box where we can store certain thing. In computer language, it could be either a string, an integer, a whole number, or a float number, and much more. A variable in maths is similar to a variable in the computer language, because you might have studied in your school or in your college that find x in your mathematics. So there would be a problem in which you have to find x, and you have to use certain different methods for finding x. In your school you must have seen that. It's the same thing, like the thing you have used in your mathematics class. Here the variable is the same, but just its use case is different. So for instance, you can use x to store the value 1. So you can do that by just writing x equals to 1, and now the x has the value of 1. Wherever we reference x, it will print out the value of 1. So if we do the same thing with y, that would be y equal to x plus 1. Now the y has the value of 2. Wherever we reference or print y, it will print the value of 2. But it's not useful. Like here you would see that if I do this, you will get bored because it's not something useful that I'm doing. So let's put this thing to the test, and let's use it right over here in our program that we have written. So for now, I will comment down these statements, and for commenting down the statement, just write hash in front of that statement, and the compiler will ignore that. So right now I will just write a simple print statement, and you are familiar with this. If not, print is used to print something on console. So for simplicity, for the purpose of simplicity, I will just write print we are willing to change the MAC address of, and now here we will stop because we need a variable right over here to be declared. So in order to declare a variable, we will just write the name of the variable. So right now I can just declare x and y, but that won't be useful because in programming, the first rule is to name your functions and variable something useful that later on when you come to your program or your application, so you do understand what you are trying to do with this variable or with this function. So in order to name our variable, the best name for that would be interface, because we are willing to declare this variable to store the name of that interface. So right now I have declared the variable interface by writing its name, and then I will make it equal to eth0 because I want to work with the interface eth0, and later on we will bring this eth0 from the terminal. But right now, for the purpose of simplicity and for the purpose of not making the program way too much complicated for you, I'm just declaring the variable and assigning it a default value. Once I assign it a default value, now the simple way to print it out to the console is to write a plus and then write the name of the variable that we want to print. So this method of doing a string and or printing out a string and a variable together in one print statement is known as concatenation. So wherever somebody asks you to concatenate a string and a variable, you can simply add a plus sign in between the string and the variable, and it will concatenate it. So now let's save the program, close it, run it, and see the results. You can see that instead of interface, it printed out eth0. So let's go back to the code. So in this statement, what we did was we wrote down string. We are willing to change the MAC address of, and then we wrote down interface. What the compiler did was it replaced the interface with the eth0, its value. Now we need another variable for this MAC address. So that would be coming over here and declaring another variable MAC address and making it equal to so there we were making it equal to 0011223344 and 55, just to make it a little bit change than the previous one. Now to print another variable with this variable, we can add another plus, and it's the same concatenation method we are following, and I will just write MAC_address and save the program. So what we did was we wrote down we are willing to change the MAC address of interface. Instead of this interface, the compiler would replace it with the eth0, and then we wrote down the MAC address that we want to change the MAC address to. So instead of writing the MAC address, it will just echo out the MAC address that we have specified. So let's save the program and come back to the terminal and run the program and see the results. So you can see for yourself what variable is doing. The variable is just replacing the variable name with its value. So we wrote down we are willing to change the MAC address of eth0, and we are willing to change it to the MAC address that we have specified. So let's come back over to the code once more, and you can see that it's pretty simple. So why did I printed this interface and variable out? Why didn't I directly work with these commands? Because it would have been difficult for you to work with these commands and to understand what I was doing. So the simple way of doing everything and understanding everything is to first print that thing out in order to make sure that everything is working fine, and then do everything practically. So this is pretty much it for this video. The main purpose of this video was to make you understand how the variable works and how the string concatenation work. In the next video, we will work with these statements and we'll make them dynamic, and will not be coming over to the code every time and changing these eth0 and this MAC address every time. So instead we are using variables, and upcoming few videos we will also explore some ways how to get these things from the terminal. So this is pretty much it for this video. Stay cheeky breaky, have a pleasant day. Till next time, enjoy hacking. Peace.